All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMAUnhinged. Today, I was joined again and joined by Oscar Silva, and we've got a big episode to talk about. UFC 277 went down this weekend, and now we've got Santos versus Hill this weekend too. So we've got a fantastic episode to talk about, and once again, Oscar Silva joins me.
I'm doing amazing, bro, because this past Saturday was something special, I really thought. Of course, the fights were in Dallas, Texas, and it was pretty evident all fight week that the hype was not the same as it was, for the Adesanya Cannonier pay-per-view. And a lot of people didn't have high expectations. I actually did have high expectations. But, wow, they really lived up. They really lived up to my expectations, the fights. They were very violent, and that main card in particular was full of finishes and beatings. It was just really entertaining to watch, top to bottom, and I felt like a lot of people really elevated their status with some of these wins.
Absolutely, it was a fantastic event, and before we get on air, the ones that don't live up before going into the event, the ones that we don't think are going to produce are usually the ones that obviously produce as we've seen on the weekend.
Yeah, 100%. So with those cards that have those unestablished names, they are extra motivated because they got to establish their name. So that's what they do, and that's what they did this past Saturday. The main event of UFC 277 was the former, now former bantamweight champion Juliana Pena. She unsuccessfully defended against the lioness, the featherweight champion Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes wins the fight via unanimous decision, and it was straight up domination. Every round was definitely Amanda Nunes' round, and it was round 2 in particular that really stood out because there was 3 knockdowns in that round. Amanda Nunes was severely underestimated by some people heading to this fight week. I heard a lot of talk that she was not motivated. She was at a new camp, her own camp, where she could just lay back and not work as hard. I listened to all the excuses that Amanda Nunes stated, and if you look at that first fight, it makes a ton of sense. She wasn't, she didn't have the cardio that she had in this fight. She fought kind of stupid, quite frankly, in that first fight. She had no respect for Pena. So in this fight, she talked all fight week about precision, about patience, and that's what she did out there. She wasn't going into the fight expecting to get Pena out there quickly. And in round 1, Juliana Pena was flabbergasted when she saw Amanda Nunes came out as a southpaw. Juliana Pena is not a high-level striker by any stretch of the imagination, and she really showed it in this fight. Pena started out with cardio kickboxing. She's not some crazy striker here. Sure, she does hit hard. She showed it many times in this fight and in the last fight, but if Nunes is not there to be hit, she's not going to be all that successful. Juliana Pena, of course, in that first round, she did get dropped out. It wasn't an official knockdown for Nunes, but Pena had all she could handle in that round 1. Then round 2, 3 knockdowns. And then round 3, that's when we see Nunes get the takedown and land that elbow right on the hairline of Pena. That cuts her wide open. And that cut was bleeding the rest of the fight. It was very gnarly. It looked like a crime scene in that octagon. And then it's rounds 4 and 5. We see more of the same from Nunes. She keeps top position. She defends all the submission attempts from Juliana Pena. There was only one official submission attempt, but there was a lot of submissions that could have been submission. You know what I mean? She tried omoplatas, several arm bars. It was round 3, I believe it was, where Pena did get really close to getting an armbar. That would have been one of the wildest moments in MMA history if we saw Pena pull that off. But of course, Nunes is a black belt on the ground. A lot of people were criticizing Nunes for keeping the fight on the floor a lot. But if you really look at the fight, she's a black belt on the ground, and Juliana Pena is not some crazy BJJ player. So Nunes was playing it safe on the ground. She was obviously tired, but Pena was more tired and she was more disheartened because she took a wild amount of damage. This is what Amanda Nunes needed to do to prove to everybody that she is still the greatest women's fighter of all time. She proved it out there. She put a vicious beating on Pena. This fight was not even close.
Exactly. This is how the fight. I thought the first fight was meant to go down. I think 9 times out of 10, Amanda Nunes wins this fight, and I think that last fight was the one time that Pena had her number. But this just showed how great Amanda Nunes is. 50-43 on a scorecard. Wow.
Yeah, that was very warranted in my opinion. I scored rounds 2 and 3, 10-8 for Amanda Nunes. The damage was overwhelming in those rounds.
Exactly. It was a fantastic performance from Amanda Nunes. Regains her throne as double champion, 135 pounds. What do you reckon the UFC will do next? Run it back, or is it maybe Caitlin Vieira, or maybe Arina Aldana?
I don't want to hear any trilogy talks with this fight. This fight was not really a fight. It was more of a beating. It was just Juliana Pena fighting to survive at some points. I really think it would be a disservice to Pena and her livelihood, quite frankly, if you want to book a trilogy, because Nunes showed she's a better fighter wherever this goes. This isn't some easy fix for Pena. She didn't just get beat on the feet. She got beaten on the ground. And yeah, this was a very bad fight for Pena. She needs to get 1 or 2 wins before we even talk about doing a trilogy. But for Nunes, a lot of people forget that she's featherweight champion because that division kind of doesn't exist. But they do have 2 fights booked for that division right now. And one of them is between Norma Dumont and Danielle Wolf, former professional boxing champion. And I think the only reason they're booking that fight is so if Amanda Nunes wants to go back to featherweight, they have a challenger for her. And I think Norma Dumont should steamroll Danielle Wolf, the 1-0 MMA pro. And she will call out Nunes. And Nunes, of course, this cut to bantamweight is not easy. So Amanda Nunes versus Norma Dumont is what I expect to be next. Because the UFC doesn't appear to care about Ketlin Vieira all that much. She kind of got that judge's nod in the last one, and nobody really agreed with it. So the UFC is not big on Ketlin Vieira because Ketlin Vieira is the logical next step, but Nunes wants to go back up. The UFC doesn't really promote Vieira, so that's the fight. Nunes versus Dumont, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. She wants to go back to 145 pounds, and obviously that would definitely make a lot of sense. Amanda Nunes said she wants to take some time off as well, so and well-deserved time off because obviously this fight was a big one. She gets it done, and it was a tough fight for 5 rounds. Julia Pena, although she didn't win, I feel like she gave another good account of herself. Still one of the closest fight that Amanda Nunes has had in recent times because she's been that dominant.
Yeah, I told people to bet Amanda Nunes and to bet the over 2.5 rounds for this fight because I know just how tough Juliana Pena is. Of course, she's never been knocked out, and she fought Amanda Nunes. She fought a Nunes that was fighting a reckless style, just winging bombs, and she took all those bombs and went on to win that fight. So I know how durable Pena is. She showed it off here. She has 0 quit in her. Her determination is off the wall. She wanted it really bad, but here's the problem: she just didn't have the skill set to threaten Nunes.
Exactly. The heart and the determination of Julia Pena is what got her the victory in that first fight. But the second fight, it was quite a downfall. She took a lot of punishment in this one, and it's interesting to see where they take, where the UFC take Julia Pena next. But yeah, tough loss to take, and it was a great main event. But there was an even better co-main event as well. Brandon Moreno versus Kai France. Fantastic fight, round 3. Brandon Moreno gets a TKO by body kick, and it was an interesting fight. It was an interesting affair for them first 2 rounds, and obviously the finish in the 3rd round. But the main story is James Krause. What a coach! He said the right advice, and eventually his man got the finish.
Yeah, Brandon Moreno is once again a flyweight champion in the UFC. He's just the interim champion though, because Deiveson Figueiredo had a broken thumb, I believe. Still recovering. He said he'll be ready by winter this year, and that will be very interesting if we see that quadrilogy this year, which I believe we will because they brought Deiveson Figueiredo in at the end of the fight to set up some beef, but of course the guys squashed the beef and they're ready for that quadrilogy. But let's talk about the fight now. Brandon Moreno pulled off a fantastic finish over Kai France. nobody's really finished Kai France in this manner. So in round one, I scored round one for Kai France. He actually outstruck Brandon Moreno in round one. And I told you guys heading into this fight, Kai France does have the power advantage. I thought he won round one, just barely. Round two, I also gave to Kai France. Brandon Moreno landed one significant strike more, but Kai France, I thought his punches meant more, and he does kick very hard, and he lands some leg kicks on Moreno. But with the coaching of Krause, Brandon Moreno was not as vulnerable to leg kicks as he was in the Davidson Figueiredo trilogy fight we had in January. He got dropped twice by leg kicks in this fight. He did not get dropped at all by leg kicks in this fight. And in fact, he fired back some leg kicks of his own. So the scoring for the first two rounds was all over the place. I don't criticize anybody however they scored it, but I did have Kai France up 2 rounds. And in round 3, that was a very wild round. Kai France is able to take Brandon Moreno to the floor and really cut him open with an elbow. And then on the feet, Brandon Moreno seems a step behind at times, and Kai France is really putting it on Moreno. And we see a lot of visible damage on Moreno. And he hits him with a combination, and he listens to James Krause's advice. James Krause said, when you finish that combination, hit him with the left kick, and he lands that left kick right to the liver. The visible pain on Kai France's face was so evident that I was thinking that Kai France got hit with a groin shot. He looked in immense pain, but it actually was a clean liver kick. Kai France's ribs were very red after the fight, and Brandon Moreno finishes it with ground and pound at the very end of round 3. Around that he was 100% losing. Brandon Moreno is a tough dude, and he pulled off another finish in a title fight. This guy's top tier, one of the best fighters in the world, and he proved it once again. Viva Mexico.
Exactly, Viva Mexico. It was phenomenal. Yair Rodriguez's reaction for when obviously Brandon Moreno gets the dub, gets the belt back. It was phenomenal. Brandon Moreno obviously talked about how he showed his versatility, and obviously he talked about when he's in trouble in this fight. Kai France brought it, and he brought the game, and he posed some trouble for Brandon Moreno. But yeah, what a fight this was. There's a picture of Brandon Moreno after the fight with his stitches. It just shows what these obviously fighting men go through to get a belt.
Yeah, Brandon Moreno, of course, is very durable. And Kai France is very durable as well to the head, but it appears that it's got a vulnerability in the body, as most people do. So Brandon Moreno pulling it off is very outstanding because, if you look at his other fights, he's mainly a boxer, throws in leg kicks here and there. So for him to get a body kick KO, that shows you the improvements he is making under the tutelage of James Krause. James Krause now brings home his first belt as a coach. Of course, just recently retired. So now that he's all in on coaching, this guy Brandon Moreno, you better watch out for this pair. This is Justin Gaethje and Trevor Whitman type stuff we're witnessing here.
Absolutely agree, and it was phenomenal co-main event. But we swiftly moved on to the main card. The rest of the main card anyway. A heavyweight fight between Derek Lewis and Sergey Pavlovich. It only lasted 55 seconds, and a lot of people were outraged on Twitter because they thought it was an early stoppage, and I do agree. I think the way Derek Lewis popped straight back up, I think it was warranted that he maybe should have let the fight carry on, and I truly believe that. But I'd still believe it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the fight.
Yeah, heading into this fight, I didn't think we would see a second round. Both guys just throw very heavy. They have legitimate one-punch KO power. Sergey Pavlovich got the better Derek Lewis on this night. That's probably the story we should be focusing on, but that finish was just too early. Dan Mergliata has been the referee for many fights, including Derek Lewis's fights. He was the referee for the Taito Uvasa fight. He was the referee for the Cerro God fight. So I don't know why Dan Mergliata, what was up with him in this situation, because he knows Derek Lewis is durable. He knows that Derek Lewis is capable of comebacks. And Derek Goliath, if I'm not mistaken, was the referee for the epic Pat Barry versus Czech Congo fight, where we see the lights go out with Congo, and then he pops up and gets the KO. And I truly believe if Derek Lewis would have had an opportunity to pop back up and Sergey is swinging wild, we could have seen Derek Lewis get this comeback KO win, but we'll never know because Dan Miragliotta messed up, in my opinion. Sergey Pavlovich, though, he fought Derek Lewis in the phone booth. He tagged Derek. Derek does not react well to damage, but he's very capable of coming back and winning, but we didn't get to see that. But in all honesty, I do think Sergey would have finished Derek if Dan didn't pull him off early. But either way, quick fight. This is a straight up banger, and it did deliver a finish like we predicted.
Absolutely a fantastic fight. This is told you so fight of the week. I picked Pavlovich, but on the night, I changed to Derek Lewis, and that was a bad one.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is... Well, yeah, for Derek Lewis, to me, I didn't like his body language coming to the octagon. It looked like he was indifferent about the fight, and then he goes in there, and he tends to not just, like, swing for the fences immediately. He's, like, very patient, waiting for the right opportunity, but he just forced the firefight in this one, and in my opinion, that was a mistake.
Absolutely. A fantastic fight from Sergey. Gets the job done. Beats rank number 5 of Derek Lewis, or rank number 4 of Derek Lewis. So now he will go up to the maybe top 5, top 6 in the world and probably get a big fight next.
So he got ranked at number 5 now. He took Derek's spot in top 5.
There you go. He's going to get a big fight next. Maybe, maybe Tom Aspinall when he looks to return.
That's a possibility. I said, yeah, you can book him with pretty much anybody. You could do the Volkov fight. You can do the Rosenstrike fight. You could do the loser of Gan to Uvasa. So many options for Pavlovich.
Yeah, try to. The Rosenstrike fight is good.
I wouldn't mind a rematch, honestly, because that was, I thought that was a pretty bad stoppage. And Derek, in that kind of fight, he does have a real shot to win.
Exactly. I do agree too. We'll swiftly move on to a flyweight fight on the main card. Adesanya Pantosia had no respect for Alex Perez in this one and got a submission in 1 minute and 31 seconds. Took him down, hunted for his back, got his neck, and that was the story of the fight.
Yeah, Pantosia is a very quick starter, and Perez is a bit of a slow starter, and it also didn't help the fact that Perez has been off for 2 years now. So Perez was a step behind in this fight. I don't know if he was expecting Pantosia to just bum rush him in this fight. Pantosia walks forward recklessly. He drops Perez and proceeds to take his back. He gets the standing backpack, and then he gets that neck crank in round 1. That was really impressive. We don't see neck cranks all that often. Fighters usually just tough it out, but that shows you that Pantosia grip is next level. He's got a great BJJ coach in Pahumpa from American Top Team, and he showed it off here. He's got wins over the 2 men that fought in this interim title fight on the same night. So Pantosia is not a guy you want to look over. That Askar fight did lower his stock, but I feel like he's hungrier than ever right now, and he knows he can beat Brandon Moreno on the right night, who is the interim champion. And in my opinion, Brandon Moreno has a great shot at beating Davison. So Pantosia could be a future champion. You never know. And he really made a statement on this night. Nobody was really talking about this fight, and now they're definitely talking about Pantosia as a threat.
Absolutely, a fantastic performance. His statement he needed to make, and he definitely put his name out there once again. If he doesn't get the next shot, obviously they're probably going to do Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 4. And then obviously Pantosia will get that shot after. Fantastic win. Short notice. Made it short. The main card was just full of action-packed fights. Finishes left, right, and center, and obviously Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. They started the show. Entertaining. The big story of this fight was how Magomed Ankalaev is going to handle the veteranness and the experience of Anthony Smith. And to be honest, he handled it with ease, and he handled it pretty well.
Yeah, Ankalaev was a humongous favorite in this fight. He didn't look like a humongous favorite in this fight. The first round was very close. I felt the fact that Anthony Smith got a leg kick checked and stayed on his back for a couple seconds there was not a good look, and that may have swayed the judges. But round 1 very close. Ankalaev landing a couple of leg kicks, and he's very patient on the feet. Anthony Smith was talking a big game the whole week, saying he was going to put Ankalaev in a fight, and this was, just a point fighting kickboxing match in round one. And then come round two, Anthony Smith's ankle's broken, so he goes for broke, and he decides to go for a takedown. Doesn't get it, so he tries a leg lock, and he puts himself in bottom position. And Ankalaev just smashes him right there. And Anthony Smith is in clear pain from his ankle, so he's not really defending properly. And Ankalaev just smashes him with ground and pound, gets the TKO win. Ankalaev once again gets himself a finish over a solid name in Anthony Smith. And Anthony Smith, I believe, was number 5 heading into this fight. So Ankalaev, to me, he's already earned this title shot. I thought he earned it a couple fights ago, actually. But he's not super exciting. And he does not have, any use of the English language yet. So that's the problem with Ankalaev. Besides that, he's a phenomenal fighter. And I think that he will be the future champion no matter who the champion is. But unfortunately, right now for him, he's going to probably have to take a fight with Jan Blachowicz.
Absolutely, a fantastic fighter, and he put on a fantastic performance against Anthony Smith. He's definitely showed that he's got, the possibilities and obviously the talent, and obviously to become future champion. And I think he's one of the most dangerous light heavyweights that we have in at the moment in the division. A fantastic performance of Magomed Ankalaev to start off the main card. He really got us going, really set the scene in that main card. But the prelims opener, prelims main event was Alex Moreno versus Matthew Semelsberger, and Alex Moreno just punished Semelsberger. The face of Semi the Jedi at the end of this fight, it's a hold to, it's a show, it's a photo to behold. It's honestly ridiculous. He took a lot of punishment in this fight, and Alex Moreno looked better than ever.
This was a wild fight, and it was just a veteran doing veteran things. He stayed patient while the young lion was going for the KO the whole time. And damn, in that third round, Semelsberger may have put the lights out on Moreno, but Moreno recovered well and got himself the unanimous decision win. In round one, Moreno is outstriking Semelsberger. Semelsberger is staying active, but he's not accurate with those strikes because he's not setting up those winging punches. In round two, basically the same thing, and the damage is adding up on Semelsberger's face. One of his eyes is completely swollen shut come round three, but he still manages to land a flying knee on Moreno. It landed clean, and Moreno somehow survived and did well the rest of the round, won the rest of the round, but I still scored round three for Semelsberger. But Moreno really impressed me here. This was one of his more outstanding performances in the UFC. This was his 11th UFC fight, and this may be his most impressive victory. Maybe this or the Donald Cerrone win.
Absolutely, a fantastic performance for Alex Moreno. Really put himself in the map there in the welterweight division. I guess Matthew Semelsberger, as he talks about, a very durable, powerful young Jedi, that we should probably call him. He really went for it, and he almost got the knockout, as he talked about in that round three. Almost finished the fight. That would have been crazy if he got the job done in round three. But yeah, even the prelims were absolutely amazing. Alex Moreno versus Matthew Semelsberger, they really delivered. Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves. Gosh, they delivered. What a fantastic fight. Wild for as long as it lasted. In round three, Drew Dober gets the finish against Rafael Alves after Alves had a burst of energy and then it all went.
Yeah, Alves, to me, strikes like Yoel Romero. He's not all that busy. He's kind of just looking to get the finish on the feet, have big moments. But the whole time he's getting outpointed, and he had fantastic head movement in this fight. He saw all the punches that were coming from Dober to the head, but not to the body. Dober was roasting those ribs the whole fight, and come round three, he lands a perfect shot right to the liver, puts down Alves in great pain. Dober is an absolute monster. He hits like a truck. Alves in round one attempts the guillotine. I thought he would get the guillotine in round one, but Dober, of course, was knowledgeable about Alves' skill set, so he did just fine on the ground. And then in round two, Dober outpoints him, tags him with some good shots. Alves got, I think he got hit with an eye poke or a nut shot. I forgot what it was, but he got fouled, so he had time to rest. And when he came back from that rest, the rest of the round was super exciting. Alves using his head movement and even dancing at the end, but Dober really put a beating on Alves in this fight, and he showed why he was a 2-1 favorite, getting himself the finish. I thought this finish was actually more impressive than the Brandon Moreno finish earlier in the night. It was brutal.
Absolutely fantastic, and obviously Drew Dober, putting on a fantastic performance. He's always an entertaining fight, Drew Dober, and he proved it once again. A fantastic win for Drew Dober to get back into, obviously, back-to-back wins now against Terence McKinney and now obviously Rafael Alves. So he's working his way back up slowly to get to the top of the division, the rankings, and yeah, we'll swiftly move on to the next fight, which was Hamdi Abdulwahab versus Dontel Maines. I mean, there wasn't a lot to go from this fight, from Hamdi's side anyway, heading into it. We don't know what he was about. We don't know how good he was. Not very much tape on him. He had 2 bare-knuckle MMA fights. And what we found out is he's entertaining. He has really good cardio for a heavyweight, and he can take a lot of shots for a heavyweight. And his wrestling, obviously, is fantastic. And he's entertaining. So that's what we found out.
Yeah, Hamdi hits very hard. I knew that heading into this fight. I said he would win round 1 because he's a powerful guy, very explosive, Olympian representing Egypt, and the first UFC fighter, of course, to get a win from Egypt. And I really thought that his lack of MMA experience would be a serious issue over guy Mays, who has multiple UFC wins, went the distance with Suragan. Man, Hamdi, with his athleticism and his power alone, was able to win this fight. Of course, that wrestling background helped him a ton here. He was able to secure 3 takedowns without much resistance. The cardio for Hamdi, I thought, won him this fight. In round 1, he scores a knockdown, doubles up Dontel Mays in terms of significant strikes, got 2 minutes of control time. And in round 2, Dontel Mays turns up the heat on Hamdi. Hamdi's a little slower, and Mays gets a little more accurate with the striking, and he wins round 2. So Hamdi needed that round 3, and both guys were just so gassed, but Hamdi had a little more left. He gets the takedown. He stays on top for almost 4 minutes. So Hamdi's got heart. He took some real big damage in this fight, but he pulled off the win here as being a guy with like 5 wins in professional MMA. That is very impressive. I think this guy's got a lot to work on, and he could be a ranked fighter.
Absolutely. Only a few fights you can get to the top of the heavyweight division. It's that slim up there. But yeah, fantastic win from Hamdi. He really put on a fantastic, a good performance, entertaining performance. I only expect him to get better from here, learn from this one as well. So it'll be good to see how he gets on in the future. We'll swiftly move on to Draco Close versus Rafa Garcia. A very, very close one on the scorecard. Could have went either way.
Yeah, this was a very fun fight. We saw a lot of wrestling, a lot of clinching in this fight, but Draco Close was definitely the better fighter. The only concern with Draco in these fights is the fact that he is very, I don't think he's all that durable. He got put on wobbly legs multiple times in this fight, but at least he did not get knocked down. I was also very impressed by Rafa Garcia's wrestling. He got 3 takedowns in this fight. But the story of this fight was Draco Close is definitely a better boxer, and he has a much higher output. Also, the gas tank for Draco Close was better. So, Draco Close, all around a great fighter. He's got a lot of quality wins over guys like Bobby Green, Lando Venata. He had a very competitive fight with Neal Dariush. So, Draco Close with the call out of Tony Ferguson, I really doubt he'll get it. But either way, he's primed himself for a fight. Maybe do that fight with Diego Ferreira. He was supposed to get, who's top 15.
Absolutely, a fantastic fight. Draco Close, rebounded off that Neal Dariush fight in his last fight against, off the top of my head, I can't remember, Brandon Jenkins, and obviously now against Rafa Garcia. So here we go. He's on a roll now. So 2 wins back to back. Jack Lacone's always an entertaining fight, so it's just to see where he goes from here, and obviously get back into them. Get into them rankings is probably his main goal. Moving over to one of the best performances of UFC 277, Michael Morales heading into this one. A really big favorite, a really big prospect. 23 years of age. We had to learn a lot about him. And I feel like this is one step of the career of Michael Morales that we learned on this night. Even when tough get trouble, he comes back. Because Adam Fugit was in his face. There was a lot of pressure. He really brought the game. And obviously, a fantastic, performance from Adam Fugit. But Michael Morales, obviously, has got a fantastic future ahead of him. And this is the step up into the journey.
Yeah, Michael Morales is only 23, just turned 23, and in this fight he showed off his really solid boxing. He's an Ecuadorian that moved to Mexico to train at the Entram gym, Brandon Moreno's former gym. Morales fought Fugit in a very, I would say it was a competitive fight. There was many instances where Fugit was tagging Morales with some good shots. Fugit got himself a takedown in round one. Fugit is a very capable and well-rounded fighter, but Morales beat him to the punch constantly, and Fugit did get worn down. And come round three, he gets knocked down and finished with ground and pound. Very impressed by Morales, man. Everybody's hyping him up for good reason. Just being 23 and already looking this good and composed, I think he's got a very bright future, and I think he's a future, I would say, future top 5 guy.
Absolutely, a future contender, definitely for sure. He's got all the makings, all the talent, and all the physical ability to get it done. Moving over to Hossein Edwards, getting the job done again. Jun Yoon Kim, not really much to talk about this one, but yeah, Hossein Edwards was just a step ahead on the kickboxing exchanges. Too long, too rangy for 135 pounds.
Yeah, so I'm an idiot. On this show, I said Jocelyn Edwards is bigger and she has a higher output, and I get swayed by listening to other people saying that Ji Young Kim has beaten better competition. She's quicker. She hits harder. She does hit harder, but she's got bad fight IQ. If she went for it in this fight, if she walked for it, if she didn't get intimidated by Edwards in this fight, she had the biggest moment of the whole fight. She rocked Edwards in round 2, but she just wasn't active enough. And in the end, Edwards gets the clear win. It's kind of weird to me that this was a split decision. I scored a 29-28 for Edwards. That's about it for that fight. Kim just didn't fight well, and Edwards was very busy the whole fight.
Absolutely, a fantastic win for Hossein Edwards. As talked out, she wasn't busy enough, and she didn't really pile on that pressure to get the job done. But we'll move on to the other one, another fight on the prelims that did pile on the pressure. That was Nick Nigerian. He really put the pressure on Ihor in this fight, and he finished him. Then these inside the clinch were lethal, they were deadly, and he eventually got the stoppage. Ihor looked good in round 1, but as soon as his gas started to run out a little bit, he got sloppy, and then he got caught, and obviously Nick Nigerian almost put his lights out. He was up against the cage. Fantastic fight. Nick Nigerian just showed how good I think he is once again.
Yeah, I really like Nick Nigerian's style. He's not afraid of taking damage at all. He'll walk guys down, wear him out with output, and that's what he did in Poteria here. Poteria had a really good record, but we pointed out that the competition was complete trash. And Nigerian, I wouldn't say he's a high level light heavyweight, but he'll give these prospects a very tough test. That's what he did to Ihor. He was able to rock him in that round 2, hurt him with a nice body shot, and that flurry he landed was so impressive. This guy was relentless with that beating, landing tons of knees to the body and the head. Eventually, the referee had to take Nigerian off of them. Nigerian is now on a win streak. I think a 3-fight win streak now. He's in a position where you can put this guy maybe in a top 15 fight, whatever you want. But I say you can either have him fight Down Jung or have him fight Carlos Ulberg. It depends what the UFC wants to do with Ulberg.
Absolutely fantastic. Shout out to Alex Ramirez in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Absolute pleasure. As we talk about UFC 277, we're winding down UFC 277. We're on the last fight, and that was Koski versus Blood Diamond. And let's be honest, Blood Diamond, he's not UFC caliber, and it really showed in this fight.
Yeah, I don't know why the UFC doesn't like Blood Diamond, but they don't like him. They put him in there with two really good grapplers. Orion Kosi was a college wrestler before he abandoned that path and went right into MMA. So Orion Kosi was a really bad matchup for Blood Diamond, but on the feet it was competitive. We had an instance there, I believe it was in round 1, where both men throw the same spinning back fist and they rock each other. It was a crazy moment. Round 1 was a Kosi round. He got the takedown, established top control. Round 2, that was a diamond round because he was able to hurt Kosi bad in that fight. But Blood Diamond engaged in the clinch. I don't know why he always does it. And then Kosi, just too much for him in round 3. Gets the takedown, stays on top the majority of the time. Blood Diamond just doesn't have the skills, and it's very obvious that he got hooked up by the city kickboxing team to have a spot in the UFC. He's just not ready yet. He looks to me like a guy you would consider having on the contender series at this point in his career. So for me, Blood Diamond, they'll give him one more shot. But if I'm the UFC and if I like Blood Diamond at all, I put him in there with a striker.
Absolutely a fantastic fight between Kosi. Did what you had to do in this fight to get it done, but Blood Diamond, as you talked about, inexperienced, not ready yet for the UFC. The contender series would have been perfect for him, just to see, it would have really showed him that, the level between contender series, kickboxing, UFC is totally different, and unfortunately that's the harsh reality. But yeah, we'll swiftly recap the whole card. The prelims were good. Mike Rojas, really put on a good show. Showed how good he was. Draco Close, Rafa Garcia went at it. Fantastic fight. Hamdi Abdelweeb really showed what he's about. Drew Dober getting the job done. Alex Moreno putting on a fantastic performance. Magomed Ankalaev showing he's the real deal against Anthony Smith. That we knew already, but he really supplemented it in this one. Alex Pantosia showing no respect to Alex Perez getting the job done. Derek Lewis falling to another KO loss in the hands of Sergey Pavlovich. Brandon Moreno getting the job done, getting the belt, interim belt in his hands, and getting the job done against Kai France and getting that championship belt once again. And then Amanda Nunes reclaiming her throne as double champ status once again. But yeah, fantastic event all around. It really did impress me. Obviously, we talked about this card. Looking into it, it wasn't the deepest, it wasn't as stacked, but it really did deliver.
Yeah, as I said, we had violence up and down on this card. Of course, Nunes putting that beating on Pena. It was one of the most entertaining beatings I've seen in my life. This was a little similar to Volkanovski Ortega, even though it was way less competitive. There were moments where I was very concerned for Nunes because it looked like she was in danger at times. So it was super entertaining to watch. It didn't feel like it was. At times, it didn't feel like Nunes was gonna leave this fight unscathed, and she did not leave unscathed. Her face was very touched up, but Nunes is just way too good, and she's the best we've ever seen in the women's divisions. The only argument people have is Valentina Shevchenko. She beat Valentina Shevchenko on 2 different occasions, and other people will say Chris Cyborg's better. She knocked out Chris Cyborg, and for people saying Cyborg's not in her prime anymore, she's still whooping everybody. She's like on a 4 or 5 fight win streak in Bellator and title fight. She's still damn good. So I really think Nunes is the best there is, and I don't think anybody beats her on the way to retirement.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex Ramirez, obviously in the chat set and put a good show. Thank you so much. It means a lot. We work on it every week, trying to make it better. So, share it about, get everyone to join in. We're trying to, try and build a real community around here. And obviously, my mate, MMA Locker Room, shout out to Mills in the chat as well. Fantastic to see you here. Obviously going over doing your own thing over there on Passports Radio. Go check him out. He's absolutely phenomenal. He interviews all the fighters as well. He's put something else in the chat, but it hasn't come up. It'll come up in 3, 2, 1. There we go. I went 4-1 on fight picks. Only lost semis. I don't know what he means by that.
Yeah, I don't know what semis are, but for 4-1, not bad at all. I think I went 8-5 on the card. Not great, but it's almost very rare for me to ever lose more fight picks than wins. So I know what I'm talking about. I have like a 62% accuracy with these picks. I'm not the best, but I have a very strong basis, a lot of fight knowledge that will carry me to win on most weeks. But you really just can't predict a lot of these fights. A lot of variables involved. There's some people that don't bet on MMA at all because there's just too many unpredictable factors. Um, like Pena winning that last time. Who knew Amanda Nunes had a knee injury and could barely train, could barely run. It's just the circumstances, and that's why I believe that anybody can beat anybody 1 out of 10 times. But Amanda Nunes, of course, was destined to beat Juliana Pena 9 out of 10 times.
Absolutely. Make sure you share the show around. And we've got a fantastic MMA show, fantastic MMA this weekend. UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. We're going to go into talk about our picks about this one. But we'll start off with the main event, Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. This is a fantastic main event. But I'm liking Jamal Hill in this one. I think he's got all the meanings to get it one. The pressure, the accuracy, his boxing. I think he's going to cause some troubles to Thiago Santos, but we talked about it before we went on air, and the technicality of Thiago Santos in recent times could really cause a trouble. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I do believe that before we went on there, we talked about Thiago Santos, his technicality in recent fights could really pose some trouble for Jamal Hill. But I'm choosing Jamal Hill to get it done. I think it's going to be a unanimous decision or a split decision. I think it's going to be a really close fight. I think they're going to go to war, trade a lot of punches. But as of late, since Santos lost, he's been very gun shy, and I think he's I feel like we're going to see another scenario like this. But I think Jamal Hill is going to get the better of him within 5 rounds, and maybe even knock him down. But I don't think he's going to get the finish. Santos is very durable.
So this is the classic veteran versus young gun fight in the UFC, and I often find myself picking the veteran just because we know more about them, and the step up in competition. It's always a risk for the young gun. So I am taking Thiago Santos in this fight to win by decision. I know Thiago Santos in his last several fights has not been looking that good, but here's the thing. He's fighting very safe. He's fighting very technical. And Jamal Hill, we don't know how he looks in that kind of fight. And we also don't know how he looks in rounds 4 and 5. We know Thiago Santos is capable of going to a split decision with John Jones, the greatest of all time. He's very low volume, but he's able to draw his opponents into his kind of fight. His opponents aren't being super busy and outpacing Thiago. Thiago puts fights in his pace, and he wins a couple of them. So the John Jones fight was the fight where in my opinion, we saw the debut of point fighting Thiago. And this point fighting Thiago, as I said, went to a split decision with John Jones. Then he fights Glover Teixeira. This was not point fighting Thiago. The guy goes out there and drops the former champion Glover Teixeira and puts him in real danger on multiple occasions. It's just he overextended and let Glover take him down, and eventually he got submitted in that round 3. That was a crazy fight, not a boring fight, and a lot of people say Thiago has been boring since the Jones fight. I disagree. Watch that Teixeira fight. That was super fun. And then the Alexander Rakic fight, that was a fight where Alexander Rakic didn't fight Thiago's fight. He got a lot of clinch control time, and that's how he won that fight. But that was a close fight as well. And then he fights Johnny Walker, and that was an eye-opener to me because I thought Thiago Santos should be able to steamroll Johnny Walker. But Johnny Walker, he reinvented himself like Thiago Santos. So they have a point fighting kickboxing match, and that's a fight that Thiago Santos wins. But Johnny Walker actually did outstrike him in that fight, so that's not a good look. And then he fights Magomed Ankalaev. That is That is a fight where he becomes the only man to ever drop Magomed Ankalaev, lands a punch behind the ear in round 2. But that was a competitive fight, and Magomed Ankalaev, I believe, is the future champion. So now he's fighting Jamal Hill. With Jamal Hill, a lot of these wins are quick KOs where we don't learn all that much about the guy. So UFC debut, Contender Series gets a second round TKO. Then he fights Darko Stocic. He breaks his hand, but he still wins a unanimous decision. The Klitschko Brew fight, he gets a first round KO. He got overturned for weed, but that's whack. Then he fights Owen St. Preux. Owen St. Preux had a bad weight cut, and he's basically very diminished at this point in his career. He destroys OSP, gets the win. Then he fights Paul Craig. He gets, tapped out in that first, not tapped out, but he gets his shoulder dislocated, gets finished. John Walker, quick KO. So we don't know what this guy looks like in a long fight, a very technical fight. He's just steamrolling these guys. I think Thiago Santos will make him fight that very technical style. And sure, Jamal Hill can outpoint him. Jamal Hill can knock him out. But as I said, Thiago is safety first in this fight. And if Jamal Hill overextends, Thiago Santos is capable of knocking this guy out. So I will take Thiago Santos to win a decision. I'm just not entirely sure what the Jamal Hill skill set looks like in the kind of fight that Thiago Santos will present. So I'm picking Thiago Santos as a big underdog this week. I think a lot of people are disrespecting him in a way. I cannot hear you at the present moment.
Yeah, I just realized that it came on my screen. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's a very close fight in the main event. It could really go either way, and it could be the told you so fight of the week. A main event, a main event that we get to talk about. But yeah, the main event is really good. Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. I feel like we're not going to be disappointed. But the co-main event as well, that's a fight that we get to talk about as well. So swiftly move on to Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal. Vicente Luque coming off the back of Bilal Muhammad, a loss, United decision loss, and Jeff Neal coming off the back of a split decision win to Santiago Ponzinibbio. This is a very, very close fight, and a fight that I liked for Vicente Luque. I think he's the better fighter as of now, as of the moment. If you look at recent matchups, Vicente Luque went on a 4-fight winning streak, beat Tyron Woodley, beat Michael Chiesa, but then lost against Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad's up there and probably almost in line for the next title shot. And Jeff Neal went 2 back-to-back losses to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Neil Magny, and then obviously beat Santiago Ponzinibbio by split decision. I just feel like Vicente Luque is too game. He's going to pressure him way too much and going to wear him down. And he's always going to be in the face of Jeff Neal, and that's going to wear and tear him down in the round 3. It really wouldn't surprise me if we see a TKO finish for Vicente Luque.
Vicente Luque needs to be given more credit. This guy has a beautiful UFC record. He's gone on a 4-fight win streak, a 6-fight win streak, and a 4-fight win streak. Those are 3 different win streaks. This guy has been in fantastic form for a long time. The Bilal Muhammad fight was not all that impressive, even in this loss. That was a fight where he did rock Bilal Muhammad in round 4, but the problem was the whole fight he was very concerned about the takedown threat, and that was a bad loss for him. He mainly got dominated in that fight, just couldn't get up. Bilal Muhammad has really improved since the first time they fought, but outside of the Bilal Muhammad loss, we have a loss to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and a loss to Leon Edwards, the guy fighting for the belt this month. So, to me, Vicente Luque is a top-tier welterweight right now. He hits like a truck. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's got an out-of-this-world chin, and he's taken on Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal is a striker. He is a guy that on the ground will really not have any threat. So the takedown threat for Luque is not there, and outside of the loss to Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards, those were 2 men that had a takedown threat for Luque, out-grappled him. The only striking battle Luque's lost is to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Stephen Wonderboy Thompson put an ass whooping on Jeff Neal for 5 rounds when they fought. So I think this is a great fight for Luque. both guys will be swinging big hooks in this fight. There's no doubt. We know Jeff Neal has a very powerful head kick. I think Vicente Luque will be able to hurt Jeff Neal in this fight and submit him. I think we're looking at a third round Darce choke submission for Vicente Luque. I think this is going to be a little similar to the Tyron Woodley fight. I just think with Jeff Neal, with his style, he tends to go for the knockout all the time. You just don't want to do that with Vicente Luque. He's not going to get knocked out. He can get dropped, sure, but he'll get right back up and keep firing back punches. Vicente Luque has a much better skill set to me than Jeff Neal when it comes to the entirety of MMA, and I think he's levels above him on the ground. He submitted Michael Chiesa, who I believe is a black belt. Very, very high level MMA grappler. I'll say that. Tyron Woodley is a black belt as well. I believe Randy Brown is at least a brown belt. So he's very capable of submitting guys. I really think this is a spot where Vicente Luque bounces back and would not be shocked if this guy goes on yet another 4-fight win streak in the UFC and probably challenges for a title.
Absolutely agree. Vicente Luque deserves more credit. His only losses to the UFC, obviously to the best in the world. And Jeff Neal, obviously no disrespect, but obviously I feel like he's going to find out. There's still a lot of levels to go to get to the top of the division. Obviously that one fight win streak he's on against Santos Bosnia. I think he just needs to pick up a lot of momentum, and the UFC are throwing him in the deep end once again. But yeah, we'll swiftly move on to the tough final. The heavyweight. I say it like an American, the final, but in England we say final. So the tough one out, the heavyweight one, Zach Palga versus Muhammad Usman. And to be honest, when I first saw Zach Palga fall on the Ultimate Fire, he was my immediate favorite to win it, and I still stand by that. I think Zach Palga is going to win the show on Saturday night.
I'm very confident with this pick. I think Zach Palga deserves to be a minus 300 favorite in this spot at least. I really believe that Muhammad Usman is not a UFC caliber talent. I think he would lose to almost anybody on the Contender Series. I truly believe that this is a case where Kamaru Usman has been asking the brass over at the UFC to bring his brother in. His brother couldn't even cut it in the PFL. No offense to the PFL, but you look at the kind of fighters that come out of there. We're talking guys that would maybe be ranked number 15 in the UFC. I think Muhammad Usman is like a little small for heavyweight, actually. He's only 6'2", 79-inch reach. I think he's got a lot of weight on him, and to me, when I look at his fights, I think he's an overthinker. I think he's very gun shy at times, and he's got poor technique. He likes the jab, but he doesn't really find a home with the jab all that much. And when he throws the power punches, you can see him coming from a mile away. Zach Palga started out in Muay Thai, and then he moved over to the Elevation Fight Team and started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And eventually, he was so good at it, Alistair Overeem and Curtis Blades got him as a training partner. This guy was in Curtis Blades' corner when he fought Tom Aspinall a couple weeks ago. So Zach Palga is grappling on the regular with Curtis Blades. Muhammad Usman, on the other hand, he's also training in Colorado, I believe, but it's a separate gym over at Trevor Whitman's, I believe. But I just really don't like Muhammad Usman's skill set at all. He's a boxer that mixes in leg kicks. His grappling is, from what I've seen of it, it's really not anything that impresses me at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of these guys that we find out just can't defend submissions out of nowhere. Zach Palga is a way better wrestler. I think he'll get himself a takedown in this fight if he wants it. But here's the damn truth. I think he wins this fight however he wants to. I think he can outstrike this guy. I think he can outgrapple this guy. Muhammad Usman on the show, he fought Michel Seep. Michel Seep is very low level. I think he's got like a 5-1 record. And in my opinion, he loses that fight. He's gun-shy the whole fight. And Seep is so unthreatened by him that he's taunting him the whole fight. He doesn't feel threat coming his way, and he does lose a split decision. Then he fights who was it, Eduardo Perez on the show, and that was another fight where it's a very close fight with a very low level heavyweight. And also the thing with Usman too, he's not. I wouldn't say he's a knockout artist in either. Like when he lands, he's not knocking guys out when they're high level. Of course, he can steamroll some very low level guys. But I'm not impressed with Usman at all. I don't think he's all that good. I think Paga is good. I think Paga has solid striking. He knows how to threaten guys with the takedown threat and have success on the feet. I think Paga goes the smarter path, more the safer path, and goes and gets takedowns in this fight, smashes Muhammad Usman. I'm thinking we're looking at a third round TKO for Zach Pauga. I'm so confident in this.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think Zach Pauga was the better fighter and will be the better man on the day. As you talked about, Muhammad Usman, that second name is pretty much probably what got him into that, the tough show. But yeah, he's got a lot to prove to make his own name, and hopefully, maybe it might start this Saturday. But I believe Zach Pauga is going to be the better man, and he's going to win the final. Moving on to the other one, we've got Brogan Walker and Juliana Miller in the final. And to be honest, Juliana Miller, I've got to give her credit to make it this far to the final, and one of the most inexperienced fighters on the show to make it to the final. She's done very well, but I think this is where she's going to lose. I think Brogan Walker is going to have a number, and Juliana Miller has just hit way too much. And Brogan Walker, she's very good at mixing up, getting the takedowns in, and obviously the striking as well. She's really good at mixing up, and I feel like she's going to be the better fight with the pressure, the striking. I think that she's going to get the better of the striking exchanges against Miller, and I think she's just going to wear her down. And in round number 3, I think we might even see a takedown and maybe a submission.
Yeah, for me, I cannot believe this betting line. I really don't know how you would have Brogan Walker as an underdog outside of the fact that she did have a knee injury on the Ultimate Fighter. So much so, she was actually going to be the first women's matchup on the show, but Nunes was able to get a replacement, and she actually becomes the last one that fights in the first quarterfinal matchup. So taking on Juliana Miller is like a really tough girl. She was somebody that nobody really thought was all that good because she has a 3-1 record, not experienced all that much. She took on Claire Guthrie before she got in the house, and she lost. And they ended up doing that fight on the show, and holy crap, that was a very close fight, the most exciting fight of season 30. And in round 1, she gets tagged up bad. The thing with Juliana Miller, she will close the distance at whatever cost. She loves to be the one moving forward, but she doesn't have good striking defense at all. She blocks punches with her face. And come round 2, she's getting lit up again, but she gets herself, she's able to rock Claire in that exchange, and then she gets a takedown and gets on top. I thought that fight was a loss for Miller because she got hit way too much for my liking. And then round 3, she's able to control Claire the whole round, almost gets the arm bar. Juliana Miller's her main skill is her jiu-jitsu. Does a lot of jiu-jitsu competition. And for Brogan Walker, her main skill is her Muay Thai. She's fighting out of Guam. Loves to strike. She's got solid takedown defense. She fought Laura Gallardo on the show, who, in my opinion, was the best wrestler on the show. And she stuffs those takedowns, and she pieces her up on the feet. I think Brogan Walker will do the same thing she did against Laura. She will stuff those takedowns and piece Juliana Miller up on the feet. If Brogan gets taken down, she's not screwed. She's fought decent grapplers before. She's got more experience than Miller, twice the experience actually. And she fought Miranda Maverick in Invicta. Miranda Maverick used to be in the top 15 of the flyweight division, and Brogan has a win over her. So I think Brogan is a higher level fighter than Miller, and I think Walker will win a fairly dominant decision in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely agree. A fantastic fight for the women's flyweight tough 30 trophy. But yeah, fantastic one. I think Brogan Walker, I pretty much agree with what he said, is going to get the better of Juliana Miller. But yeah, an interesting one on that one. Moving on swiftly over to a heavyweight fight between Augusto Sakai and Sergey Spivak. This is a tough one to call. Sergey Spivak, as of late, not on the best run of form. If you look at his last few fights, he lost to Tai Tuivasa, got knocked out against Jersey the Rosenstrike, and also got ground and pounded against Alistair Overeem when Alistair Overeem was in the UFC. So it's been a long time since Augusto Sakai has got a win. To be exact, in 2020 against Blagoy Ivanov. And if you look over his opponent, 14-3, Sergey Spivak got a win over Greg Hardy in his last fight. Greg Hardy's last UFC fight, I do believe. So yeah, and then obviously his last loss was against Tom Aspinall. This was a tough one to pick. Obviously, Augusto Sakai is on not a great run of form, but if you look at his opponent, Spivak, he's had wins inside the UFC, but I wouldn't say they're credible wins. He's got wins over Tai Tuivasa, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vandera, but as of late, Greg Hardy is his most recent win.
I think Augusto Sakai is being overlooked this week. A lot of people are expecting Sergey Spivak to maul this guy. A lot of people look at the Overeem fight. They think Spivak can do the same, and that's a real possibility. But here's the honest truth with Spivak. Spivak's striking is bad, and he's slow. He's very slow. He fought Alexei Olenek, and when he took on Alexei Olenek, I was very confident in him. I bet a lot of money on Spivak. I said, let's go, Spivak. He'll destroy him on the feet. He'll destroy him on the ground. I was wrong. Olenek is able to have a lot of success striking with him. And if you watch Olenek's fights, that guy's moving in slow motion. So for me, Spivak is very, he's just low level on the feet. Sakai is solid on the feet. He's a Taekwondo black belt. He's got some volume. He has some KOs, and a lot of these KOs, they're actually using his Muay Thai. He's got the good Muay Thai, very vicious elbows, nice knees, and that's how Spivak got knocked out last by Tom Aspinall. He got put in the clinch, got knocked out with an elbow, and I think Sakai can do the same thing here. But I actually think Sakai will be able to win a decision in this fight. Sakai, in terms of his punching power, is not all that high, but when he fought Alistair Overeem, he had Alistair Overeem covering up multiple times in that fight. So Sakai is a solid striker. He's a better striker than Spivak. And in terms of takedown defense, Sakai is at 65%. Spivak, when he fought Carlos Felipe, who's now been cut for steroids, which is hilarious because the guy's obese. But that was a fight where he was unable to get Felipe down easily. In fact, he lost round 1 to Felipe, who is the guy that was never top 15 bound. So I think, and also he's got knocked out by Walt Harris in his debut. I think Augusto Sakai can stuff a couple of these takedowns. I know he'll get taken down in this fight. In fact, in the Blagoy Ivanov fight, he did get taken down. And in fact, when he went to get taken down again, it was a blatant fence grab that caused him to keep it on the feet, and that's what saved him from getting the win. But this is a close fight, but I know Sakai is that much better on the feet, and he's not super easy to take down. So I will pick Sakai to win by decision. It's kind of weird to me. He's this big of an underdog when he was a pretty solid favorite against Alistair Overeem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Augusto Sakai has got the meaning to get this one done. The striking is good, and obviously he talks about his Muay Thai inside the clinch. It is phenomenal, and yeah, Augusto Sakai, either a knockout in even the first few rounds or in the first minute. That I like that. Obviously, get him early. I think that's where he's going to get Spivak when he's obviously slow and very dry. I think he's got to clip him early to get it done if he's going to finish it. So yeah, Augusto Sakai hopefully gets back on the winning record. 3 back-to-back losses, and this is an important one because if he loses this one, he could face the axe from the UFC. So this is a really, really important fight for him in the side UFC. We'll swiftly move on to the women's flight between Ariana Lipski versus Priscilla Cachiero. Oh, look, Cachiero. Oh, you know what? I'm so bad.
Priscilla Cachiero. Oh, now you got me saying it wrong. Priscilla
Cachiero. But you said it. Priscilla Cachiero. There you go.
There we go.
All right. So Ariana Lipski versus Priscilla Cachiero. A phenomenal fight in the flyweight women division. But yeah, this one's a tough one to call. One I would say is a gimme fight, a very, very even fight. Not a gimme fight, a very even fight.
I'm very excited for this fight. This will be probably a striker's delight, and it guarantees violence because we got the queen of violence versus the zombie girl. So Priscilla Cachoeira has a very fascinating UFC career. She takes on Shevchenko in her debut, Valentina that is, and she gets smashed. Mario Yamasaki gets just blacklisted from the UFC after that. That's how bad the beating was. And after that, she's able to KO Shannon Dobson, and she gets on a solid run. But she does lose to women that are much better technical strikers. And in my opinion, she lost her last fight to Ji Yeon Kim. That to me was a robbery. You look at Priscilla Cachoeira's fight; it looks like she got whacked in the head with a baseball bat several times. And Ji Yeon Kim, on the other hand, for me was just that third round where she got hit with a lot of clean elbows and cut up a little bit. That's what swayed the judges in that round 3. But I know it's striking stats. I don't tell the whole story, but to me, Cachoeira didn't even hurt Ji Yeon Kim. And to me, Ji Yeon Kim was stinging her a lot in rounds 1 and 2. I thought rounds 1 and 2 were fairly decisive for me for Ji Yeon Kim. And round 3 was that one round that was close, but not close in terms of the numbers. I really was confident that Ji Yeon Kim won that fight. Cachoeira gets the win. She looks in horrible shape in terms of her face after the fight. Ariane Lipski will punish Priscilla Cachoeira if she tries to get in that Muay Thai range where she tries to land those elbows. Lipski's got way better Muay Thai. She will cut up Priscilla Cachoeira's face. Cachoeira will block a lot of punches with her face in this fight. Lipski, her main issue in the UFC, every fight she's lost, it's because she got taken down. Marlon McCann fight, taken out twice. The fights with Montana De La Rosa and the fights with Anthony Shevchenko, she got pounded out on the ground. It's now she's getting knocked out on the feet. And that's what Cachoeira needs. She needs somebody that's going to overreact to the power, going to get threatened by it. Lipski has the grappling advantage in this fight. That's something Lipski can't always say. I think she can take down Priscilla if she wants to. And she's at American Top Team now, and that's why she looks so damn good against Mandy Bohm, in my opinion, showing new wrinkles to her game. I think she pieces up Priscilla Cachoeira and wins a decision here. But Priscilla Cachoeira will make this ugly, will make this competitive at times, but I do think that Lipski is the better technical fighter.
Absolutely agree as well. I don't know this game. You told her. You mentioned that she's the queen of violence. And yeah, a fantastic fight. I've seen her last fight against Mandy Bohm. Got the job done. And obviously Jin Yoon Kim in her last fight against Priscilla, probably could have got the job done and should have got the nod. I do agree with you on that as well. I think Aaron is going to get this one. She's going to be a better striker, more crisper, more sharper, and she's going to beat Priscilla obviously to the punches. Because as we talked about, Priscilla likes to throw her power and hope for the knockout.
Yeah, and the only knockout she got was that one Shannon Dobson fight. Shannon Dobson, horrendous record. So to me, Lipski, she's a much high level fighter in my eyes. We'll move on now to the prelims, and they're very fun.
Absolutely, we've got Sam Alvey. Yes, Sam Alvey is still inside the UFC against Michał Osenjańczyk. I'm so bad with names, but they're getting harder each week. I tell you, it's incredible. But yeah, Sam Alvey is still inside the UFC, and he gets Michał Osenjańczyk. And to be honest, he's going to lose this one, and hopefully this is his last shot inside the UFC. That's the only way I'm going to put it. Sam Alvey's going to lose, whether it's striking, grappling, anywhere where the fight this goes, he's going to be dominated.
I'm never a guy that wishes somebody to lose their job. I know how devastating it is, but how can you not root for Sam Alvey to lose his job? The guy has some kind of special privilege that other fighters don't have. This guy is on a 7-fight streak where he does not have a win. I know he had that draw with Don Jung where he won rounds 1 and 2, but he got dropped in that last round, and that caused a 10-8 round. To me, Sam Alvey is only in the UFC because he's taken several short notice fights. He's done the UFC a favor, and he's still in the promotion of fighting his contract out. But the thing with Sam Alvey, to begin with, he wasn't all that good. He was just a guy that really hit hard, had solid wrestling. And that Sam Alvey that we started out with that was a little younger, that wasn't all that good to begin with. He is now even diminished. One thing that you could always trust with Sam Alvey in some other fights was his durability. That durability is gone. He fought Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is not really a power puncher. He's actually more of a BJJ guy who's now falling in love with striking. He gets KO'd by Brendan Allen, and then he fights, Julian Marquez. And in that fight, he gets really obliterated. He gets choked out, unconscious. These are bad looks. He's taking really bad beatings. I think it's irresponsible on the UFC's part to keep him on the roster. And you feed him to Michal Oleksiejczuk. This is an interesting fight because this is his first fight at middleweight. He's been a light heavyweight who's always been undersized, but he's still fighting these big monsters, and he's dropping them constantly. He's a very scary dude, and now he's at the right weight class. I'm going to assume that the weight cut isn't all that hard for him. If you look at his build, he's got that middleweight build. And Sam Alvey, on the other hand, I think his chain is gone. I think he's going to get dropped in the first round, and he's not going to be able to get back up. Michal is a menace in that first round. And Sam Alvey, maybe the old Sam Alvey can make this fight a little more competitive. If you remember the Ryan Spann fight, was the first UFC fight after the UFC came back from the COVID pandemic, and that was a split decision win for Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann is in the top 15 right now, and that was a split decision. Sam Alvey does hit very hard. Even who was it? I think it was like Sean Strickland said that Sam Alvey rocked him bad in sparring. The guy hits hard. That's reliable, but he's slower now, and I think Michal will be even quicker at middleweight. I'm thinking Michal steamrolls Sam Alvey and gets that first round KO, sending Alvey his walking papers. I kind of feel bad saying it, but it's going to be a moment where we're going to say finally.
Yeah, a time has to come at one point, and I think it's going to be this weekend for Sam Alvey. But yeah, as it's tough to say it, but he's been inside the UFC a very long time, and his 7-fight losing streak, it's not good. It's time for him to go, and I think Michal was obviously going to supplement that this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be a good fight though. I know when Sam Alvey fights, so he's in entertaining fights, whether it's him getting knocked out or it's a wild back and forth. Something entertaining happens, but hopefully it goes his way or doesn't go his way, depending on the result. So yeah, we'll swiftly move on to a lightweight matchup between Terrence McKinney versus Eric Gonzalez. This is a really, really, really good fight between Terrence McKinney. Obviously burst onto the scene back in 2021, I want to say, into the UFC. He had fights outside the UFC, fought an LFA, burst onto the scene against Matt Frivola, knocked out Faraz Ziam, submitted Faraz Ziam. And then obviously in his last fight against Drew Dober, was seconds away of finishing Drew Dober, and then Drew Dober came all the way back and won the fight. Eric Gonzalez, on the other hand, 14-6 in MMA. On his last fight, he got knocked out by Jim Miller. Before that, he hasn't fought inside the UFC. He fought in Combate his whole career. That was his UFC debut, getting knocked out against Jim Miller. But Terrence McKinney, he's been inside the UFC. He's proved he's worthy. If he fought much smarter in his last fight against Drew Dober, he possibly could have even got that win. I think that could have been a good learning lesson for Terrence McKinney. Obviously losing that fight against Drew Dober. I think he needs to come in more calculated in this one, and I think he will do. And I think he's going to get the knockout in round number 2.
Round number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you care to explain why you think we see a round number 2?
I think Eric Gonzalez survives the first round, and then McKinney puts him out.
I don't see that at all. I think Terrence McKinney will get a finish in round 1. In fact, I think this breakdown of the fight will be longer than the actual fight itself. Terrence McKinney has multiple KOs inside of a minute. In his UFC debut, he got the quickest KO in lightweight history. In 7 seconds, he KOs Matt Frivola. Eric Gonzalez, in his UFC debut, took on Jim Miller. Jim Miller, he is a hard hitter, but nobody's talking about him like he's Justin Gaethje. He gets Eric Gonzalez rocks Jim Miller. Gonzalez gets overzealous, he gets clipped and KO'd by Jim Miller. That's a very bad look. Jim Miller, I know he's still capable, but you're supposed to be this hot prospect and you're getting KO'd by Jim Miller, who's like 40 now. That's not a good look. Terrence McKinney is a young killer. This guy took on Drew Dober. Drew Dober, one of the best chins of the whole division. He gets blinded by the speed of Terrence McKinney. He gets dropped pretty much immediately with a kick. Terrence McKinney has maybe the quickest hands in the whole division. I think if a slow Jim Miller is able to KO you, I think Terrence McKinney will be able to dust this guy. And I think this is not going to be competitive. I think Terrence McKinney can KO Gonzalez pretty much immediately on the feet. And I think if he wants to, with his wrestling background, he can take down Gonzalez and submit him like he did for SEM. I'm very high on Terrence McKinney. I think Gonzalez is just taking this fight because he has to. I really think this is an awful matchup for Aaron Gonzalez. I guarantee you we see a first round finish by Terrence McKinney because that's what he does. After round one, he's a different fighter. He's completely gassed out. He got finished by Sean Woodson on the Contender Series in round two because he just doesn't have a good gas tank. Maybe he does have a good gas tank, but he fights at such a vicious pace that he's not going to be good for a long fight. So I think quick fight, Terrence McKinney, first round KO. I'll say right now, first 2 minutes.
Absolutely. And obviously we've got the same pick, but different views of it. We'll see what happens on Saturday night. A fantastic fight. Terrence McKinney is always exciting, as we saw in his last fight. But yeah, fantastic fight. And we'll swiftly move on to our former tough final fighter who's fighting on the card. Brian Battle looks to make it looks to make his run inside the UFC continuing with Takashi Sato in his way. Takashi Sato in his last fight fought Gunnar Nelson, the return of Gunnar Nelson, and lost to Gunnar Nelson. In my opinion, this is quite a big step up for Brian Battle, but a step up that I see him overcoming and winning. I believe that Brian Battle could become top 10 in the division. I think he's got all the meanings, all the physical ability, the talent to get it done. And I think Sato is just a man that he's in his way. And I think we're going to see a phenomenal performance in front of Brian Battle this weekend. But Sato is dangerous. He's fought some very, very good guys inside the UFC. So this could go one of two ways. But I believe Brian Battle gets this one done. I think the striking and obviously the grappling is he's going to mix up, and he's very well rounded, and he's the pressure as well is where it's at. And I think Brian Battle is going to get this one by unanimous decision.
I've said this a lot today, but I'll say it again. I'm taking the underdog. Takashi Sato has much more MMA experience than Brian Battle. Brian Battle on the show, he looked pretty damn good. So he took on Kimran Lechinov. He styled on him for 2 rounds, won the decision in the house, and then he fights Andre Petrosky. Andre Petrosky was the guy everybody was talking about as the guy to win the show, and he's a submission grappler. Brian Battle submits Andre Petrosky in round 2. Very impressive. And then he takes on, who was it? I can't remember the name right now, but
Gilbert Urbina.
Yeah, Gilbert Urbina. There we go. Gilbert Urbina is a submission grappler. He goes out there, submits Gilbert in round 2. Of course, Brian Battle was supposed to fight Trishan Gore in that finale, and they do the real finale fight after that. He fights Trishan Gore. After that fight, I'm not really convinced Gore is all that good. I felt like Gore could have won that fight if he just was not concerned about getting tired and had a low output. Gore clearly won round 2. He hurt Brian Battle, but rounds 1 and 3 were clear battle rounds. He outpointed him. Brian Battle, I don't think hits very hard. He's got solid kicks. He's got solid takedowns. His jiu-jitsu is very effective. He's good at taking the back. Against Takashi Sato. Takashi Sato in the UFC has struggled with superior grapplers. He fought Jason Witt in his UFC debut. KOs Jason Witt. No, that wasn't his debut. But he gets submitted by Bilal Muhammad, submitted by Miguel Bieza. And for some reason, he didn't get submitted by Gunnar Nelson. I still am scratching my head as to what happened at UFC London this past March. Gunnar Nelson is the best submission grappler he's fought, and he doesn't get submitted. Want to know why? Because he was defending. He was simply defending. He was not looking to get up. He was simply defending the whole fight. And he gets his head pounded in by Gunnar Nelson. That was a really bad performance. Now he's fighting Brian Battle. I think Brian Battle has not fought a guy on the level of Takashi Sato. Takashi Sato has a karate style, and I think he's very capable of fighting Battle in a close split decision kind of fight. And to see Sato as this big of an underdog, I'm going to take him. And also, one thing to note, this is Brian Battle's welterweight debut. He's always been an undersized middleweight in my eyes. A lot of guys do that. On The Ultimate Fighter, they go up a weight class, so the weight cut isn't hard. Now he's at welterweight. I don't know what he'll look like at this weight class. I don't know what the weight cut will do to him. I'm taking Takashi Sato here. I think he's very experienced. He's got knockout power, and who knows what how Brian Battle's durability is after cutting that weight. So I'm taking Takashi Sato by decision.
Absolutely. This is a very close fight. You went Takashi Sato. I'm with Brian Battle. This one could really go either way. This is a big test, as I was saying, for Brian Battle. It could be a banana skin for him. And Takashi Sato, you're obviously phenomenal. He's got some good wins inside the UFC, and obviously his losses against some really good guys, as you talked about. Gunnar Nelson, Miguel Baeza, Bilal Muhammad. No losses not to be ashamed of. But yeah, very tough fight for both guys. It'll be interesting to see what way it goes. Swiftly moving on to Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan. This is this fight. I'm going to say it here straight away. I have no belief in Jason Witt inside of mixed martial arts or anything. I think his chin. I think he might have been one of the worst chins I've ever seen inside of MMA. If I'm thinking about the correct person, then I believe it is. Yeah, he got knocked out against Matthew Snellsberger, ground and pound with Takashi Sato. Won a good split decision against, or majority decision against Brian Barberena. Got knocked out against Philip Rowe. And Josh Quinlan, to be honest, I don't know much about him, which is why I'm hesitant to pick him. But to be honest, I know he got a win on the Contender Series and that got overturned because he popped for something. I couldn't remember. But yeah, this is a tough one to pick. And obviously, I have no belief in Jason Witt, but I am going to pick him because he's got that experience. And I don't know how good Josh Quinlan is. But to be honest, I do see Jason Witt getting knocked out in a few seconds or a few minutes because his chin is so bad.
I'm going to start this out by saying that Jason Witt does have a better skill set than Josh Quinlan. Josh Quinlan is mainly a striker. He fights out of Vanderlei Silva's gym. And, I'm sure his boy Vanderlei hooked him up with the stuff for the Contender Series. He got the first round KO there in the Contender Series. The guy hits like a truck. That's a deal. But he's fighting Jason Witt, who Jason Witt is a much better grappler in my eyes. He's very strong. He's got decent submissions and good ground and pound. He's also training out of James Krause's gym, so I always like that. But there's nothing James Krause can advise him that's going to make that chin better. I just think his durability is very unreliable. But there was this one instance where Jason Witt showed up with a solid chin. He fought Brian Barberena. Brian Barberena just knocked out Robbie Lawler a couple weeks ago. He took big shots from Brian Barberena. I think he got dropped 2 or 3 times in that fight. Somehow the guy survived. Want to know how he survived? His wrestling. He was able to go right into the clinch and attempt to take down every time he got hurt. And that's a possibility in the fight. But here's the thing. Quinlan, I know he's 5-0. He's not all that polished. But boy, does he hit hard. On the Contender Series, he fought Logan Urban. And he got a KO in 47 seconds. I think Josh Quinlan is capable of knocking out Jason Witt at any time during this fight. Jason Witt could be winning. We could see a Korean Zombie versus Yair Rodriguez situation. It doesn't matter. James Witt is always susceptible to getting KO'd. So I'm picking Josh Quinlan, first round KO. You just can't trust Jason Witt.
Exactly. His chin is absolutely ridiculous. Any slight gust of wind, you worry for this guy. But yeah, I'm picking Jason Witt vastly just because on experience and to be honest, not a very confident pick, and nor would I ever bet on Jason Witt. But yeah, very, very tough fight to pick. Jason Witt, I'm going for. You're going with Josh Quinlan. But yeah, we'll move on to Corey McKenna versus Miranda Granger in the women's strawweight division. Corey McKenna trying to bounce back after her loss in her last fight against, off the top of my head, Elise Reed, where that was at UFC London, if I'm correct, where she took a tough loss. in a very, very tough scenario, fighting in the UFC London crowd, a crowd that favors her, and she didn't get the job done. So it's going to be interesting to see how she bounces back against Miranda Granger, who lost to Amanda Lemos, lost to Ashley Yoder, and now takes on Corey McKenna. This is a tough one to pick, a very, very split one, but I'm in the favor of Corey McKenna only just.
This is a fight I'm going back and forth on, so I'll tell you what the deal is. Miranda Granger, I believe, is a much better striker, but I think Corey McKenna is a better grappler. The story here is Miranda Granger is coming off of having a child, and historically we have seen women come back from having a child. They, something is always off with them. It is what it is. We've seen it with who was it? Mackenzie Dern. She looked a little flat against Amanda Hebus after she came back. We also saw Lena Landsberg. Something always seems off. It's just they've had a long layoff. Their body's gone through a lot. Of course, I'm not telling you from any kind of personal knowledge, but Corey McKenna, on the other hand, is very young, very unpolished, but she's got wrestling. She trains at Team Alpha Male over in California. Her wrestling coach is Sarah McMahon, the silver Olympic medalist. I'm sure she's always making improvements. There's a 10-inch reach advantage for her against Miranda Granger. Miranda Granger is also 4 inches taller. So for me, it's all about, does McKenna's control time outweigh the damage that Granger does on the feet? I'm going to say yes. I think if Ashley Yoder can get you down that often, Ashley Yoder's a jiu-jitsu player with some decent striking, but I think McKenna's a better wrestler than Yoder. I think McKenna will take down Granger for 2 of the 3 rounds and win a close decision, but do not bet this fight. McKenna's way too big of a favorite. I think this fight is a coin flip. To me, if Granger did not have this big maternity leave, I would probably pick her, but I do think McKenna does have has a very sneaky wrestling game. I don't think it's like top tier at all, because she fought Elise Reed, and Reed was able to stuff those takedowns, beat her up on the feet. And then we see Elise Reed get mauled by Sam Hughes, who's not even a wrestler. So this is a fight you want to stay away from a betting perspective. But I do think McKenna can win this fight by decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Good one on the scorecards. Good one on the fight. The prelims are 2 women fights, and the first one is a bantamweight one between Mayra Bueno Silva, and then obviously we've got a Stephanie Egger in the other one. This is a tough one as well. You talked about the last one, tough one to pick, and this one also a tough one to pick. But to be honest with you, I like Mayra Bueno Silva in this one. She has really good wins inside the UFC. Yanon Wu lost to Florite, Madroris Montal De La Rosa, Mario Barella has a loss against Mario Maurice, beat Gillian Robertson, submitted her. Stephanie Egger has lost to Tracy Cortez, lost to Alexa Connors back in the early stages of her career. But as of late in her UFC career, beat Shanna Young, beat Jessica Rose Clark. Jessica Rose Clark has not looked herself as of late, an armbar win. This one's going to be a tough one to pick, but I am siding Mayra Bueno Silva. But I won yet again. I wouldn't bet on, because this one could probably go 50 times different ways.
So this is a fight, once again, I think it comes down to who has more time in their area. I know Bueno Silva is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She submitted Jillian Robertson, which is no easy task. But the thing with Bueno Silva, if she can't submit you off her back, it's a very bad look for the judges. She's stuck down there. She's getting hit with ground and pound. That's what Menin Figueroa did. Menin Figueroa is a really good fighter with a karate base. She only now, through MMA, developed these takedown abilities. So for her to do that to Bueno Silva is a very bad look. Bueno Silva, of course, is someone that has confidence in jiu-jitsu, and that's not going to be good for her, because she's taking on Stephanie Egger, who is a judoka. She has competed in several judo competitions. I believe she beat Ronda Rousey in judo before, so she's absolutely no joke. She's very strong. We know that Jessica Rose Clark is strong, and she went out there. She tossed her ass. and then went ahead and submitted her. And now she's taking on Bueno Silva, who is happy to go to the ground. I think this is a fight that Bueno Silva can win on the feet because she is a better striker, more aggressive striker, higher output 100%, but she doesn't have good fight IQ. She's shown it so many times. She never shoots takedowns, and she's fought several fighters she's had a jiu-jitsu advantage over. She doesn't shoot takedowns. So to me, Bueno Silva will be happy to go where Stephanie Egger decides the fight to go. So I think Egger gets some judo tosses here, gets control time. And one thing I like with Egger, she's very aggressive, always looking for finishes. She got the R bar over Jessica Rose Clark in the first round, and then she fought Shayna Young, smashed Shayna Young on the ground. So I know Bueno Silva is very durable, very solid submission defense. So I think Egger wins by decision in this fight.
Yeah, exactly. A very, very close fight to start off the card. Two very close fights to start off the card. This one's going to be interesting. We've got some really good fights throughout the whole card. And that pretty much wraps up that card. Not a lot of fights on this card, but we're being treated to some. I feel like fights that will be underlooked and produce a very, very good fight next week. As we talked about, the cards that are very underlooked are usually the ones that produce. So there's going to be a few low-key fights on here that I feel like are going to produce.
I'm genuinely interested in the outcome of every matchup. I feel like I'm picking more underdogs than I have in a very long time. Let me count the underdogs real quick. So I'm taking Thiago Santos underdog. I'm taking Brogan Walker underdog. I'm taking Augusto Sakai. I'm taking who else? Takashi Sato. Yeah, so that's like, is that 5 underdogs? That's a lot of underdogs.
A lot of underdogs. Yeah.
The normal like number for underdogs to win on a card is like 2, maybe 3. But if that many win, I'm gonna look like a really smart man come next week.
Absolutely. That pretty much rounds up the card this weekend. Is there anything that you'd like to say before obviously end it and we send them their good way?
I'm just saying, make sure to tune in next week for our show this Tuesday. Same channel, same time. We're going to be talking UFC San Diego. It's going to be Marlon Chito Vera taking on Dominic, the Dominator Cruz. It's going to be a very fun card to cover. And that will be in front of a crowd. It's a bummer this won't be in front of a crowd. But then again, Thiago Santos, he'd be a guy that'd be getting a lot of boos with his style. So, whatever. But we're going to have a very exciting card this week and the next week. The UFC, they're always reliable. It was just that UFC 276 card that was kind of weird. But I'm very excited for the future we got coming up. This UFC 280 card is heating up. They just added Muhammad Mukayev versus Malcolm Gordon. That card is full of Muslim fighters on purpose. And they're really going to get these huge ovations, and I think a lot of them are going to win as well.
Exactly, yeah. And that UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz, that's going to be a really good fight night. Some really low key fights that are going to, really, show up. Yusuf Zalal returning as well, always in a really good fight. Odie Osborne versus Tyson Nam, that's going to be a good one. Nina Nunes, Sinford Calvillo, that was produced. David Onano versus Nate Landwehr. Wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that card to be in front of the San Diego card. That is going to be a home game for Dominic Cruz. He is from San Diego. Marlon Chito Vera also, he is residing in California as well. So I think the crowd will like both guys. But ultimately, I think Vera probably gets the showcase spot there and gets himself a finish. But very excited for that main event. Do you have anything to leave the people with, Lenny?
Not much really to enjoy the fights this weekend. Obviously we've got the UFC this weekend, so make sure you enjoy them. I think they're gonna, not disappoint. I think we've got some really, as I talked about, some really, low key fights that I feel like are going to produce some bangers. Sam Alvey, even though he might not be in the UFC, but he's in an entertaining fight. There's always the talking point when there's Sam Alvey fighting. So, and then we'll have to pick something out of that. So, but yeah, make sure you tune in next week, same time, same channel. We'll see you all next week. Make sure you have a good weekend. Thank you all for tuning in. Exactly. So see you all next week. It's been an absolute pleasure. Make sure to enjoy the